on that day, on the second but last day. And then we will have a number of cultural events and so on. And so that will be ending on Sunday. Yeah, sorry, I'll be there on Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday I go back to Tiruchirappalli, retrace my journey back to New Delhi, stay there for 4 days, and then I go to Indore for the opening of the Chhatralaya and school that our Kishores have sponsored. And so we're going to be there. That's a big function with lots of different dignitaries coming, and but it's only for 1 day. And so I'll go there on the 1st. I'll go there on the 1st, and then the main function will be on the 2nd, and then I fly back to Delhi on the 3rd, and then fly back here on the 3rd also. So a lot of traveling.
I'm tired.
You just go, take 1 day at a time, and it all happens.
You going with your wife?
No, she cannot come. She's very busy with her new project that has just gotten started. So I'm just going to go alone. My sister is she's 82, and her health is starting to deteriorate, so it'll be good to spend a few days with her in New Delhi. Okay, it's 7:30. Doesn't look like there's anyone else coming, so let's get started. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam Vashishtante Vasat Vishaganai Avrita Brahmanishtai Acharyendram Karakalita Chinmudramananda Rupam Swatma Ramam Mudita Vadanam Dakshinamurtamide Vatavitapi Samipe Bhumi Bhage Nishannam Sakala Muni Jananam Jnanadataram Arat Tribhuvana Gurumisham Dakshinamurti Devam Janana Marana Dukkha Cheda Daksham Namami Chitram Vatataror Mule Vriddha Shishya Gurur Yuva Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyanam Shishyastu Chinna Samshaya Nidhaye Sarva Vidyanam Vishache Bhavaroginam Gurave Sarva Lokanam Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Om Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhed Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Om Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantarkatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahiribodh Bhutam Yata Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namahitam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivānkuro jagatidam prāṅ nirvikalpam punaha maya kalpita desha kala kalana vaichitrya chitri kritam मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महा योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकम् असत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत्साक्षात्करणात् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नानाच्छिद्रघटोदरस्थितमहा दीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरणे द्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनु एतत् समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये देहं प्राणमपीन्द्रियानपि चलां बुद्धिं च शून्यं विदुः स्त्रीबालान्तजडोपमास्त्वमिति भ्रान्ताभृशं वादिनः मायाशक्तिविलासकल्पितमहा व्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये राहुग्रस्तदिवान्धकरेन्दुसदृशो मायासमाच्छादनात् सन्मात्रः करणोपसंहरणतो यो भूत्सुषुप्तः पुमान् प्रागस्वाप्स्वमिति प्रबोधसमये यप्रत्यभिज्ञायते तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बाल्यादिषु अपि जाग्रदादिषु तथा सर्वास्वस्थास्वपि व्यावृत्तास्वनुवर्तमानमहम् इत्यन्तःस्फुरन्तं सदा स्वात्मानं प्रकटीकरोति भजतां यो मुद्रया भद्रया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये विश्वं पश्यति कार्यकारणतया स्वस्वामी सम्बन्धतः शिष्याचार्यतया तथैव पुत्रात्यात्मना भेदतः सात्विजागृतिकाय एष पुरुषो माया परिभ्रामितः तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये भूरम्भांस्य नलो नलो अम्बरं नाथु याशु विधान तस्मै न इत्यभाति चराचरात्मकमिदं यस्यैव मूर्त्यष्टकम् नान्यत् किंचन विद्यते विमृशतां यस्मात् परस्मात् विभोः तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये सर्वात्मत्वस्फुटीकृतमिदं यस्मादमुष्मिंस्तवे तेनास्य श्रवणात् तदर्थमननात् ध्यानात् च संकीर्तनात् सर्वात्मत्वमहाविभूतिसहितं स्यादीश्वरत्वं स्वतः सिद्ध्येत् तत्पुनरष्टधा परिणतम् Jaishwaryamavyahatam. So in the verse number 9 that we are doing, if you recall, the last week that we had the first class on, the topic is that Atma is Dhyeya. It is to be meditated upon. So here, to understand what it means, what is the significance of this, all throughout the Shastra, it has been said that the Atma being, the self being not formful, and not having any qualities that you can identify with our sense organs. Because we can identify qualities of things only from our apparatus, what has been given to us. So, is it long or short, can be seen through the eyes. Is it good smelling or bad smelling, can be given through our nose. Does it taste well, etc., etc. So thing has to have a quality for us to be able to identify it. And so the Atma is none of those, because it is both. It is both short as well as long. It is both good as well as bad. It has everything. And so the sense organs are not able to discern. See, you cannot say, okay, now this one is a good sound, this is a noise, because everything, Atma is everything, and so it doesn't make any sense for us to be able to discern. So that being the case, we say that Atma cannot be thought about. You cannot taste it, you cannot everything. So that being the case, the Shastra says that it has to be listened to. Atma is Shrotavya. It has to be listened to. Why does it have to be listened to? Because it is already there as you. And so the teacher has to say, you don't have to search for it because it is you. But because you are mixing it up with some of the qualities, you are misidentifying it. So if you separate the Anatma from the Atma, then that's for who you are. So this requires a credible teacher who is able to see this very clearly himself or herself, pointing this out to the student. So, and the end result is that the Shastra says, Atma Shrotavya. And then it says, this is Shravanam. Then the Shastra follows it up by saying that it has to be Mantavya. Then you have to understand the importance of that and to narrow the gap between what is being heard and what is your experience, because those are two opposite. It looks like I'm limited, but I'm told I'm unlimited. So that has to be reconciled in some fashion. So this is called Mananam. And finally, when the whole thing is very clear, then you simply meditate upon it. It's called Nididhyasanam. So these three stages, Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, are the well-recognized means of knowing the self. Now, all of a sudden, in the middle, it is said that the Atma can be meditated upon. Dhyeya. How is that possible? Why do you say that? Because so far you have not even made that possibility. You've already been talking about Mananam, Shravanam, Nididhyasanam. How can it be, thank you, how can it be all of a sudden the object of your dhyanam, meditation? Because why not? Why is this objection there? The objection is there because just a minute ago you said that it cannot be thought over, has no qualities, and therefore you cannot think about it. Didn't you just say that? So we said, yes, I did say that. Now you're saying it has to be thought over. So aren't you being contradictory? You're talking from both sides of the mouth? How is that possible? And actually, in the Shastric tradition and so on, there are a number of traditional acharyas who say this is not possible. There is no value for meditation. There is a value for nididhyasanam, and I'll explain the difference between, I think there was a question about the difference between upasana and nididhyasanam, so I'll go over that in a minute. But the teachers say that there is no room for dhyanam. Some teachers say that it cannot be, there's no need to have dhyanam, either you understand it or you don't. So where did dhyanam come into the picture? Upasana and dhyanam are pretty much the same. But, so there are some differences in opinion. And the wise acharyas say that really this is like splitting hair. Whatever works for you, you should do. The main thing is not to make a mistake about the Atma. That is the end point. How you get there, we're not purists about it. So they'll say, okay, if you have to do dhyanam also, do dhyanam, it's okay. Anyway, there is quite a bit of a prevailing view, including number of very big acharyas, including Vidyaranya ji, his teacher Shankarananda, a lot of people, and so they all say that yes, dhyanam by itself cannot give you knowledge. We agree with that. In other words, meditation is not a pramana. Not a pramana. But along with the trial of the poor student who's struggling to find out the truth about the self, which is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So in this very difficult trial, if an extra step is given, along with Shravanam and Mananam, the ability to do abhyasa, yoga abhyasa, where you just focus on it and you do some exercises to focus on it, then it is okay. Then it allows you, and they say that in our experience also it works. And so the upasana or dhyanam does have a place in the final analysis. This is the reason for it, and Shankara himself gives one of the 10 verses in recognizing that. I should also tell you that in the 9th chapter of Panchadashi, as you know has 15 chapters, the 9th chapter, which I am currently happen to be studying, it was just a coincidence, it is called Dhyana Deepa Prakaranam. Means a prakaranam, a chapter which deals with dhyanam. and it has got 150 verses. And I've only studied about 30 of them in the last few days. Marvelous. The more I study Panchadashi, I think it is just an amazing explanation. And they give a lot of very good advice about Dhyanam. And it underscores what is being said. So I'll bring some of that in today. I won't have as much detail because I'm also not completely done with the 9th chapter of Panchadashi. And it just so happens this is the 9th verse of the 10 verses of Dakshinamurti Stotram. So let's get into it and see, with that background of what is Dhyanam and what is not. Let us see what is being said. So, as I said earlier, that Upasana, Dhyanam, can only be done on a formful entity, as entity that has has some qualities associated with it. So in the literature of Vedanta, oftentimes Ishvara, and this is kind of like the atomic table, you can do it in clusters, you can do it different ways, so it's nothing absolute about it. But in Vedanta, Ishvara is often depicted in 36 forms. All kinds of different forms it talks about it. Combinations, pures, and so on. But by the same token, more of an emphasis is given in the subset of 8 forms. So the 8 forms is an important subset of the 36 that depict the form of Ishvara. And why is it the 8? What are the reasons for it? There are 2 reasons for it. One is, as we will see today, these 8 are perceptible to the human being. The other ones have to be thought through. You have to postulate it, you have to think more in a complicated manner, it's more difficult to grasp. But these 8 are directly perceptible. And this is what the verse 9 is going to show. And also because of that reason, it is easier to visualize the form of God. And so Adi Shankara also has composed the 9th verse based on these 8 forms that are given in this verse. So let's go over the verse so that we are clear about it. And then we'll spend most of the time on that and some commentary on it. So, as you know, then it says, Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambar maharnartho himamshuv puman ityabhati characharatmakamidam yasyaiva murtyashtakam nanyat kinchana vidyate vimrishatam yasmat parasmat vibhoho tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaha Shri Dakshinamurtaye. This is the verse. So if we look at the what is called the Anvaya. Anvaya means that this is a poetry. This is a poetry. And to convert that into a prose that one can grasp more easily, then the Anvaya is, let's go through each word at a time. So one is Yasya. So Yasya, and so I'm following the Anvaya of Swami Maheshananji. He's always given an Anvaya like this. I think we used to do that early on, and then in the middle perhaps we had not followed this, but I'm coming back to that here again. So Yasya. Yasya means whose. Whose means Ishwaras. This is the form of Ishvara, Parameshwara or Ishvara, the same thing. So whose Murti Ashtakam. Murti Ashtakam means the 8 forms of murtis or altars. Vigraha, sometimes called Vigraha. Like this Dakshinamurti is the Murti, Dakshina of Shiva that we have also. This is called Murti Murti. So the Murti Ashtakam means that the entire Murti of Ishvara has 8 forms. Then Eva means indeed Idam Characharam. Idam Characharam means the one that moves and does not move. Means both inert as well as moving things, both the table and the human beings, carpet and all the living animals, etc. The entire, you've now covered the entire creation with Characharam. Then the 8 forms of altar, and in the form of the following 8 parts of the Murti. And those are Bhuhu. And so this is in reverse order. Normally we take it from Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, and Prithvi. Right? So now we are doing in the opposite case. Bhuhu is earth, Ambhamsi is water, Analaha is fire, Anilaha is air, Ambaram is space. So let's look at these 5 Pancha Mahabhutas. And then there are 3 more. And those are Aharnatha. All these words are very interesting because Aharnatha means, Aha means the day, and Natha means the Lord of the day, the one that creates the day. And when he's not there, then night comes. So it's called Aharnatha. Himamshu. Himamshu means one whose rays are as pleasant as Hima, means they really cool you down. The very looking at the moon, you you are very pleased with it. And so Himamshu. And then Puman. So Puman is the Jiva. Because in fact Puman is the most important one. Because Puman is the one who is Jivatma, who is standing in front of it. And so if you look at the Vigraha, then you find that in some form or the other, either through the things being held on or through things on the top and so on, these are the 7 forms. Like for example, in this is the one from our ashram. And so in this one, you find that the next to the jata of Shiva, there is also a sun and the moon. So they are both there. So here the question is, why the sun and the moon? So you have the Pancha Mahabhutas, but why? What is the significance of the sun and moon? So here the sun represents the original sources of light, and the moon represents the reflected sources of light. So if you look at yourself, for example, as a human being, you also have both the sun and the moon as part of you, because the consciousness is the independent source of knowledge. and your mind is the reflected source of knowledge. So the Atma in that sense is represented by the Surya, by the sun. And the body-mind complex is the reflected consciousness. And so this is what happens, that when, for example, the death comes to the body, if death should come to the body, all of a sudden everything ceases to function. The Atma leaves the body. Atma actually doesn't go anywhere. Atma cannot go anywhere. But it is no longer functioning in the body. And as soon as that happens, then the bodily functions that depend upon the reflected Atma cease to be. Heart stops to beat, blood doesn't flow anymore, the heat leaves the body. Pretty soon, if a person has been dead for, I think, as little as half hour or so, the whole body will start to become cold. And there's nothing left at all. And so, sun and the moon in summary then represent the original consciousness and the reflected consciousness. And both seem to be conscious. In fact, I am moving around, talking and so on, but it is all reflected consciousness. It is not the original consciousness. I enjoy the consciousness in making myself move and talk, and so just like we all do. So similarly, the entire creation, if you see, is very interesting, is made up of, you have to have sun as the center of every little creation. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but where the sun ceases to have its light, there will be another sun. So the whole universe is dotted with sources of light. And the whole universe is dotted with moons that have some function and some reason for reflecting. And so in the case of the human being also, there is no creation unless there is a reflected consciousness. This is what creation is all about. So anyway, in summary, the eightfold. So in eightfold is important. This is why the Murti Ashtakam is used here. Urambham se naro nilo ambar maharnartho himamshuf puman ityabhati iti abhati characharatmakam idam yasyaiva Murti Ashtakam. The Murti Ashtakam is important. There we saw, just in summary, that the Pancha Mahabhutas are the original constituents of the creation, along with the emphasis that creation must have something like the sun. So if fire is there, so there is a difference between fire and the sun. There's a difference between fire and the sun, because the fire is truly distributed, whereas the sun can concentrate the heat in a way where it can be an endearing source of light and heat. Very carefully balanced also. Swami Dayananda used to say that if the sun was like 5,000 miles away, then where it is, the earth will not be able to function. It is very carefully balanced in terms of the four seasons as to how far the sun has to be, so that it gives you just enough light and just enough heat for the life to be born and sustained. So the whole universe is made up of the Panch Mahabhutas and also sun, the moon, and of course the original consciousness. The sun represents it, but it is not the original consciousness. Not the original consciousness. Here Swami Maheshananji has pointed out, you can even just meditate on this, really is interesting, that you see, you cannot see, supposing you have to see a cup of water. Like you get up in the middle of the night and you're thirsty, and you need to get to a cup of water. How are you going to do it? So there are lots of dependent things that are needed for you to get to the cup of water. One of the most important one is light. And especially if supposing you are a guest, like when Swami Viditatmananda would stay with my wife and I, then we would tell him, Swamiji, we are giving you a flask and a cup of water in case you want to get up. And he doesn't know where we are putting it, so we have to remind him. But supposing we don't remind him, and the person gets up in the middle of the night and he's thirsty, how is he going to find out? So there you need light. Then you need hands and feet to get to it. You need a sense of touch. So all this is being said that in order to be successful, to know where the cup is, you have all these intermediate things that have to be given to you. Now, in order to know the Atma, you don't need anything. In order to get the cup, you need the sun or some light. You need hands, you need feet. You need your mind also. You have to see, all these are necessary. To see the Atma, you don't need anything. Even a blind person who's totally blind is aware of his own consciousness. You don't need anything at all. And so therefore, for a creation you need the Murti Ashtakam. But for the consciousness itself, which is, you can say, is part of Murti Ashtakam, if you want to count it that way, but a totally different one. It's independently conscious. You don't need anything to say. All, if I say the words, do you know? And you'll say, yes, I know. I know is very natural to you. You don't need anything. Anyway, just to finish that off, the Ishvara is easily visible through these 8 forms. So now let's go back to the verse.
Excuse me, what was Puman? How did you explain Puman?
Puman is the Jivatma itself, the Atma. So here, the Atma means that if you are looking at Ishvara, then your consciousness has to be involved. If you are not conscious, then you cannot see it. So that is the Puman.
So
That-
itself is not Atma then.
No, it is Atma. It is Atma, but the context here is a person who is doing dhyanam. This is dhyanam. Okay? This is the method of doing dhyanam. So the method of doing dhyana means what are the constituents of doing dhyana? And the most important constituent is the Puman. So that Atma is really Jivatma as well as the Paramatma. It's like the room space looking at the total space. They are the same thing, but you're looking at it from a viewpoint of a Jivat, of a room space. That's the Puman. Okay, so let's go on with this verse. Yasya murti ashtakam eva idam characharam bhuhu ambamsi analaha anilaha ambaram aharnarthaha himamshuhu puman iti abhati. By these forms, the entire Shrishti is experienced. Abhati. This is how it is visible to me. By his experience. Now, we add something more to it. So then we say, Vimrishatam. Vimrishatam means by people who are well educated and have the viveka and have become wise from teaching. Vimrishatam. And Vimrishatam for these, by the discriminating people, they understand that these 8 forms that are visible to people is only a sample of the fact that the entire creation is pervaded by Ishvara. Is pervaded by Ishvara. We can give an interesting example of this. So suppose there is a sunlight falling on a room. Okay, there's sunlight falling on the room, falling on the room, and it is lighting up walls, floors, objects in the room, and so on. But suppose it is also falling on a mirror. Through the window, it just happens to fall on a mirror. When it falls on the mirror reflects the sun and creates a patch of light which is much brighter than the rest of them. This is the simile. Okay, so just follow this simile. So in this simile or example, you have a general diffused light in the room, which is falling on everything in the room. But it also happens to fall on a very bright mirror. And when it does that, the mirror is actually as bright as the sun. And it can throw patches of light in the room that are much brighter than the rest of them. Okay, this is the example. So here, the 8 Pancha Mahabhutas and the sun and the moon and the Puman is like a mirror reflecting the Ishvara. And that means that they are clearly visible. But that doesn't mean it's not that the Ishvara only has 8 forms. All possible forms, including the 36 we talked about earlier, millions of forms, are nothing but Ishvara alone. So that is like the sun falling on the entire room. And so it's not as though the sun is not there in the entire room, it's only there in the mirror. But here, what happens is very similar to that. Our mind is like a mirror. Our mind is like a mirror because it reflects consciousness to a much better degree than it falls on the table. So the mind's consciousness is in a very heightened form. And so this is why human beings, it doesn't mean that the table is also not Ishvara. Table is also Ishvara. But a living being shines brighter than the other beings and therefore can reflect the presence of Ishvara in a very clear way. So now we can complete the sentence. He says, so you can say that the first part of the sentence is that all people can see the 8 forms of Ishvara, but the Vimrishatam can now see that the entire creation is pervaded by Ishvara and is not separate from it. It is the same thing. You cannot say that Ishvara is here, it is not there. It is everywhere. So now we can form the sentence for this. So my salutations to that Ishvara, whose visible forms of space, air, fire, I forgot a comma there, water, earth, sun, and the moon are experienced in the form of all inert and conscious entities by all people, and everything in the universe is seen to be none other than the all-pervasive nature by all discriminative people. To that Ishvara, my namaste, my namaskar. So if you recall, we had started last class. I'm just connecting this verse to the last what we had done before. And if you remember that, we had said that in the 8th verse, we described the powerful forces of Maya that really captivates me into looking at the world in a dualistic, pluralistic view. And I am not able to go beyond that. And I cannot really understand my nature as a unlimited person. And I can sense that the Shastra is giving me the truth, but I don't see it. How do I see it? What is the issue? So it was said, and I will bring in a very interesting concept that Swami Paramarthananda had pointed out in the 7th chapter of the Gita. I really like this. I was aware of it, but the way he put it really is very effective. So what he said was, for those of you that may have attended the Gita class, this will be repetition for you. What he had said was that the issue we have in our life is that we are as though flowing in the river without stopping, being able to stop anywhere. We are just slipping and sliding. Everything we think we get hold of ourselves and our lives, and the next thing is that it changes. It's like I am not able to really get hold of myself. While I don't know what to do. It's just flowing, and I'm helpless. All the way up to the very end of the life. There, Swami Paramarthananda had said, really, if that is the situation, isn't it obvious? And before I do that, let me just add to the previous one to say that human beings are basically insecure. All beings are insecure. We get by with whatever we can, but ultimately speaking, we do not have absolute security. It just flows and flows and flows. We hang on to someone, and that person also needs my security, I need his security, and both of us are insecure. It's like, you're flowing in the water, in the river, and you cannot hold on to each other. Both of you are flowing. So there, in the 7th chapter, as Bhagavad Gita has said, please don't you understand, you need to hold on to a secure person who does not move. It's like you're flowing in the water, in the river, and all of a sudden you find there is a rock or some kind of a metal post. Then now if you can hold on to it, because it is secure on the ground, now you can stop moving. You can become secure. That secure person is Ishvara. So therefore, to connect this verse to the previous one, if your life is just going and going and you have no idea where to go, you need to resort to a refuge to Ishvara. This is the idea behind all this. And so do the dhyanam about where Ishvara is, what is the form of Ishvara, and how can he help me to gain a foothold in my life. This is the reason for the 9th verse. Okay? So, that being the case, now we go into a different topic, which is I need to see Ishvara in a form that I can visualize. And this is really the basis of Hinduism. This is what distinguishes us from all the other spiritual disciplines, that we give great prominence to having altars and how we have to slowly feel the presence of Ishvara in an altar. So let's look into the various forms of doing dhyanam as the next topic. So now we find that the Vigraha of Parameshwara, the altar of Ishvara, can be seen both in the Samashti as well as the Vyashti. So the Samashti, which is called Brahmanda, is the entire Virat. And it is also seen in the Vyashti, which is my own body-mind complex. Therein lies a very important lesson for us in order for us to free ourselves from a false identity with my body-mind. This is an important example of that. Because this goes back to the 8th verse, that why is the Maya Shakti so powerful? Why can't I see that I am unlimited? Why is it that I am always identifying with the limited me rather than the unlimited me? Why? And one of the reasons is I do not start to make an attempt to see my own body and mind as part of the universe. I see myself as a separate individual from the universe. I make that distinction outside my body. This is me. This is me. This is you and this is me. As though I have a clear demarcation between them. And by the study of the Parameshwara as a Vigraha, I come to a understanding which softens my approach that really speaking the same laws that are working outside are the same ones that are working inside. The heart beating, the prana, the flow of the blood, the genealogy, it is all part of the universe. It is the same one. And the thoughts also are generated by Hiranyagarbha. I am really just an aspect of Hiranyagarbha. And so therefore, you see, instead of making a line that separates the world from me, I abandon this body mind, also part of the world, and I draw the line between Atma and Anatma. You see, that is what I have to do. And that feeling, that understanding is aided by understanding that the altar of Ishvara is really one and the same. And so another part of that is that the Pindanda, I don't know if I'm saying this. Yeah, so let's look into that in a minute. But Pindanda and Brahmanda are really one and the same. So in the rest of the Manasa Ullasa chapter of verse number 9, Sureshwacharya goes into this in great detail about how the outside things, including the sun and the rivers and wind, are also reflected inside, both from the standpoint of a yogi and as well as from the standpoint of one who is doing some upasana. The similarity is given to a great degree. So much so that I think that it will be just too much detail for this class. And so really the bulk of it, if you're interested, you can certainly read the Manasa Ullasa verses, and it goes into the great details about both the individual as well as the cosmic world and how the similarities are and so on. But remember, one of the things to understand is that the individual is really not a part of the cosmos, but an aspect of the cosmos. Why? Because a part of cosmos will mean that as though the cosmos is built up of individual parts, like bricks of a house. That's not the case. It is really a tops-down creation, as we have said before. Tops-down creation means like in an ocean. The wave is an aspect of the ocean, not a part of the ocean. Not a part of the ocean. Because if it was a part of the ocean, then you will separate out all the waves and the ocean will fall apart. Nonsense. Cannot do it. And so therefore, yes, the Vyashti is an aspect of it, and it, as an aspect means it is the same thing. There is no difference. I give this example, this was Swami Dayanand had given this example. He said, just look at this. Suppose a woman becomes a mother. She conceives a child and is the mom. When she becomes a mom, there are certain things that happen to her. And the most important thing that happens to her is, although there may be some exceptions to the rule, that's always the case, but the rule is that a motherly love comes to her. A sense of amazing closeness, protection, and love for the child. Even more than the father. More than the father. Something just absolutely beautiful. Okay, so this is the example. The question is this. Let's ponder on this question. This sense of motherly love, was it invented by a particular mother? Did she put it together out of nowhere? Or is it that as soon as she becomes a mother, it is given to her? Don't you think it is the latter, not the former? Yes. So therefore, as we say, that the motherly love is already present in the whole creation. In Hiranyagarbha. And as soon as a female body is formed, and if she should become a mother, then that aspect of Hiranyagarbha is imported into her. Now this is only one example. The same thing is true for different aspects of father. The whole thing is nothing but just an expression of the cosmos. Mothers are always the same. They have a peculiar sense of love for the children. Beautiful love. Really, the closest thing to Ishvara is the mother. And it is not as though it is individually designed by people. I will show people that how my motherly love. No, it's imported. It's not designed, it's not created by the individual. It is created by the cosmos. And so with that, I find that really speaking, my sense of individuality, which was so strong, is now softer. I can see where it all came from, and I no longer have had that sense of individuality. So now, having said that, what I wanted to do was that instead of going into the rest of the verse number 9 commentary by Sureshwaracharya, which goes into a lot of detail about the parallels between Vyashti and Samashti, and sometimes highly technical. So this is where the Sushumna Nadi and the yogic explanation of how the body is nothing but a reflection of the outside and so on. It's interesting, but in our view, in many of our views, not necessary. You don't want to become a yogi, you just want to become wise in terms of Vedanta. That being the case, I also decided not to go into this in the same detail. So instead, what I'd like to do is to present to you in the next few minutes some of the concepts of upasana that will be of use to you. Okay? So, starting with what I had mentioned yet, the difference between upasana, which is sometimes referred to as dhyanam, and nididhyasanam. Okay? Which I briefly mentioned in the last class for Ganapati's question. So, nididhyasanam is a thought pattern where the formless has already become clear to me. Very clear through the teaching. All the Shravanam and Mananam has been done fairly well. It is clear, it has become clear to me, but it can disappear from me. It can disappear, but I already know it. Even though it has disappeared, I know it, and I just have to bring it to my mind again and again. You see? So, an example given by Swami Maheshananji, which I will bring to this point, is that, and I think I mentioned it in other classes also, that if you were to go to a completely new place in the middle of the night, let's say you are landing in some European country, and your car takes you to a hotel in the middle of the night. It's all pitch dark outside, and you have no idea behind your room what the landscape looks like. Is it a town? Or is it the edge of the town or the forest? Or what is it? You have no idea. And just as you are standing by the window, a strike of lightning lights up the whole thing in the middle of the night. Instantly you know what the landscape is. Is it forest? Or is it just a bunch of roads? And you find that it is really like a forest. It is the edge of the town, and there are trees. And then the lightning goes away. So now, do you know what's behind it or not? Yes. Because the lightning was already there, and you now can identify this is foresty. You may not know all the details because the lightning was so quick that you could not count the number of trees and all of that. But one thing you know is that this is a forest, not a paved set of roads, even though it has become dark again. So also with nididhyasanam. So nididhyasanam is when the self has become clear, at least for a while, that I am an independent ocean of consciousness, and my thoughts and my body do not disturb it. They are like waves in the ocean. The waves don't disturb the water. It is very clear to you that I am like the water, the ocean of consciousness. And then, while you are busy doing things, talking to people on the phone, so on and so forth, you may forget for a while that you are the ocean of consciousness. But do you ever doubt that you are the ocean of consciousness? No. Because just like even if the lightning has finished, you still see that it is a forest. Even though you don't see it, but you know it. So therefore, to close this topic, nididhyasanam is the process where you can bring to your mind something that was already clear to you. This is nididhyasana. And so this is what would be called aparoksha jnanam. So this knowledge has to be very clear, so that strike of lightning has to occur somewhere or the other. And hopefully if it has occurred, then nididhyasanam is appropriate. Contrasted to that where that has not yet happened. The clarity of the ocean of consciousness is not yet happened. You are close to it. You can sense it. You have some shraddha towards the indirect knowledge, paroksha jnanam. You know that it is there. You have shraddha on it, but you don't have a clear idea. When that happens, then upasana can be helpful. Dhyanam can be helpful. Along with learning, it's not either or, but it's a sahakari karanam. It is also one of the accompanying reasons for gaining clarity over time. This is the sense of what is called upasana. Okay? That being the case, let's go to misspelled here. So there are two types of upasana, and technically even three. So one is called pratika upasana, and the second one is called ahangraha upasana. Okay, so let's look into that. And when there are three, along with pratika upasanam, it is called nama upasana. Nama means name. So Om Namah Shivaya is a name upasana. But sometimes both of them can be combined into pratika upasana. So let's just focus on pratika upasana. So pratika upasana goes in the following way. It means that with your shraddha, you follow a stone vigraha, like it happened in our temple here, what's it called? Sanatana Dharma, yes, sorry. Sanatana Dharma, where the Panditji who was, he's no longer there, Shastriji, he had decided to make a vigraha of Sankat Mochana. I'm sorry. Yes, so Ganesha vigraha. And then a lot of prana pratishtha is done. It's not like just taking a stone and putting it there. You have to do it with the proper Vedic rituals. And also the shraddha of the people is involved. Because if there's no one is doing, following it, then also the prana pratishtha, etc. would not be done. So you have to have, this is where Puman, all the jivatmas have to be there. But once all of that happens, and you go there, you don't look upon it as stone anymore. You now have a sense of the Devata. You visualize, and not only just visualize, you naturally have a sense of understanding. And those of you and us that believe that there is a real person there, have that feeling throughout. Like for example, in our Dakshinamurti Vigraha at the ashram, I look upon that as really Dakshinamurti, because I have a lot of Shraddha towards it. And for all the murtis when I go to, I don't go to the Ganesha temple that often, but whenever I go to the Dakshinamurti and so on, and even if I were to go there, I don't look upon it as just a stone idol. I look upon that as an altar. So this is why the people say we are not idol worshippers. People accuse Hindus as being idol worshippers. We are altar worshippers. It's an altar for us. This is what is called pratika upasana. Okay, this is number one. Now let us come to the second type of upasana, which is called ahangraha upasana. You can even have an N here, ahangraha or ma, either one is okay, ahamgraha upasana. What is ahamgraha upasana? Ahamgraha upasana is to be done by those students who have, through the teaching and through their own vichara, their own analysis and so on, they can see that the human body and mind complex is reflecting Ishvara. As we were saying earlier, it is not just an independent piece of flesh and bones, but it is in fact the expression of Ishvara. But I don't see it very well. I don't see it yet. But through upasana, just like you do Ganesha upasana means it requires a lot of background. You have to tune in and see the Ganesha Devata in the Ganesha. Similarly, you have to do upasana to the body-mind complex. And the way to do that is that you are not the master of your body-mind. Ishvara is the master. So you invoke Ishvara in your own body-mind. And just like the stone can become an altar for Ganesha, similarly your flesh and bones can become the altar for the presence of Ishvara. And so by doing that upasana over time, then your mind softens up to a point where nididhyasanam becomes a possibility. So until then, it is still learning. In some way, another example of this would be the example of swimming. That until you can naturally swim, you better mimic swimming as much as possible. And there comes a point where you cease to struggle. Then the breathing and the floating becomes effortless. So in the parlance of this upasana, you switch over to nididhyasana because it has become very clear to you. So therefore, one other very important thing, and I'll end with that. I think I pointed out all of this before. I should have had this. So we'll end with the following. It is said that for a mature person, the ahamgraha upasana is far superior to a pratika upasana. And we need to ponder why that is the case. And if you think about it, it will become very clear to you. And this is discussed in great detail in the 9th chapter of Panchadashi, written by Vidyaranyaji and very nicely commented by Swami Maheshananji. He brings up this point. The reason is this. The Ganesha Vigraha can never become Ishvara, can never become the Devata. It is your own imposition that creates in your mind a sense of the Devata being alive. And you can go quite far. Whereas in the Ahangra Upasana, unlike the stone of the Ganesha, which does not reflect consciousness, but you do. So for you, it is limitless. You can in fact become the total consciousness. You see that point? This is a very important point to see. The upper limit of Pratika Upasana is far less. Whereas in the Ahangra Upasana, you can be successful over time in overcoming the sense of limitation. Because basically you are unlimited. Therefore, Ahangra Upasana, there's no comparison to it. By all means, have an Ishtadevata and be devoted to absolutely do it. All these are additory. They all add to each other. But there is no limit to the Ahangra Upasana. Because what you need to do in the Ahangra Upasana is to go in the same direction as you need to go for Nididhyasana. Because in the Ganesha Upasana, you finally have to give that up and come back to this path. But here you're already going in that path. And all you need to do is to give up the sense of kartritvam and bhoktritvam, which is in your body-mind complex, not in you, the Sakshi, which is nothing but the nature of Ishvara. So therefore, the Upasana does have a role to play. And so with that, I think we can close verse number 9 for Dakshinamurti. And so we don't even have to have another class. I think we are pretty much covered. So I'm not going to get into details of all these yogic practices and so on and so forth. We're lucky that I think we imported some of the wisdom from the 9th chapter of Panchadashi. And this is the significance of Upasana. This is where the role of Upasana is, and it can be done, it should be done, but it is not a substitute for Nididhyasana. It is an aid to Nididhyasana in case things are not very clear. And so that is the reason for the 9th chapter of the Dakshinamurti Stotram. With that, I'll close the class. And next time when we meet, I hope I'll have time to prepare when I come back. We will begin the last verse of the Dakshinamurti Stotram. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Any questions from about today's class?
On that hotel room analogy, looking out the
Correct.
window in the dark and the lightning strikes, you explained the Nididhyasana, but in that analogy, how would you explain the Upasana in that analogy?
So in that analogy, the Upasana would be where you have not seen it yourself. You can ask the person who is checking you in, and the person, you'll say, what is in the back? And the person may give you a sort of a verbal description, but you haven't seen it with your own eyes. And the verbal description may be accurate, it may be not what you were thinking of. Like for instance, suppose you were thinking of jogging the next morning, and you wanted to find out exactly if there are some jogging paths and so on and so forth. If the lightning struck, then you will be able to see enough that yes, I think I can go. Whereas in the other case, he may be able to explain it, he may not be able to explain it.
Yeah.
So the Atma in that case is being described, but not where you have an aparoksha jnana.
So it's like pratyaksha jnana versus somebody telling you, as opposed to
Right.
usually seeing.
It'll be in the technical analysis, it'll be called paroksha jnana.
Okay.
When the paroksha jnana, which means that the Vedantic literature says that there is Brahman, who is, it's like Ishvara, who is, take the refuge of Ishvara. Don't keep on slipping and sliding. Take refuge, Sharanagati, Bhakti, and that, so, and you have Shraddha. You don't say, oh, this is poppycock. You feel, my God, that is true. I need to do that. There is Shraddha. I didn't know how to do this, but now I do. And so, but you have not seen, so you are still dependent upon Ishvara. So you are still a dependent entity. Whereas the last stage is where Ishvara has shown you that you don't need anybody's help. You are completely independent. That is the aparoksha jnana. But until then it is paroksha jnana. And in the paroksha jnanam, then upasana does have a role to play. In aparoksha jnanam, it has no role to play. It's done. And the only role that you can do is nididhyasana. Because you are now very clear about it, but it slips from you because you are busy doing something or the other. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, very good. So we'll see you. I don't know when that will be. What is the Tuesday after the 3rd?
11th.
Not the 11th. I'll be back on the 3rd.
So 4th is the Tuesday.
4th is
Come
the
back Monday.
3rd is Monday.
Yeah.
So let me see if I have come back and I have to, maybe I'll be do some preparation in India. So most probably let's plan on meeting on the 4th. But if my jet lag and all those kinds of things are creating that I may cancel it. But we'll see. But let's plan that we will, I'd rather not miss any days. Okay, all right.